IPT time. Hell yeah, as it should be. Actually, I'll actually keep it running 25/8, as you should. Remember, you only think there's 24 hours in a day is because you go to sleep early. There's really 30 hours in a day. See, I invented this. I invented time. Time is only 24 hours for people that sleep. Sleeping makes you think and is gay. Penguin Zero basically went live at the same time as you. He's copying. I should sue him. Okay, so we're gonna look at some interesting thing called the Matrix Notes, and this stuff isn't super old, so I also found Forget. Tor users, please be wary of fake stuff. How to update I2P? You just have to update your packages. Oh, ITP Plus? It should be right here. Where's Firefox? So you should go to the home page. I think it's under the console. I think, oh, router, it's router updates. Yeah, it should be on your basic thing, and you can actually do notify only, download very fast. You can actually check for updates automatically. News last update 147 days ago. News checked 22 hours ago. No update currently available. You should next a I2P get T server. I ran the install script and installed to I2P user. Yeah, it should be updated. It should be good. If you haven't updated it in a while. But if you have, okay. All right, We're gonna be like pee pee poo poo. I don't need that. I don't need that. Make my cat retarded. Oh wait, maybe. Maybe? No. Alright, I give up. I don't get it. Current views, I'm running 210. So you're 5 versions behind. Oh, it doesn't look like I need up to rather. Current is 2010.26. You're running 2010 0.5 plus. I don't know. Just you should see if your router is updated. It is updated. I just checked. I'm at, what version am I on? Weird. All right, we're gonna read over some matrix concerns and stuff. Based. So grab your water, guys, and think about your messaging app. I mean, in hindsight, security needs to be built from the ground up. If you have a secure app on insecure hardware, there are potentially big uh-ohs that can happen. Ooh, speaking of update, need to update my system. Rolling release, baby. Gotta update these repos. This thing I love about Linux is you can update while you're live streaming. I need to. My favorite app messaging app is Pigeon. IRC. Yeah, this Friday there's a free and open source local streaming service that I want to check out. Not free as in, I mean it is free in cost, but it's in beta, but it's local first and it's free as in freedom. Foss enjoying streaming software, which is pretty based, but I'm going to test it out this Friday. I can remember where it is. I hate following stuff, but I'm going to. So it has RTPM resiliency upgrades, auto reconnect, backtrack, back off, tune timeout, keep it live, OBS WebSocket integration, and integrated Discord webhook for flow incoming format and images. I do hope that I could figure out how to get a background, because I have a green screen. I don't know if Debian calls it SID. Debian SID is the best Debian distro. Devuan. Huh. I've never heard of it. As a certified Debian hater, I'm unsure of this. Okay. Matrix notes. I have some. So, when we were looking at yesterday, we were on the Onion Links service, where we talked about lack of open source in the community. Your CPU, motherboards, GPUs. What Debian is goated? None. Yo, mate, love your stream. Okay. Those are always bots. I hate bots. What Debian is goated? None of them. Well, I mean, I guess Unix, because it's based on Debian, but they could have picked anything else. If Unix would have went with the more based Void Linux, I would have appreciated more. So maybe Unix. Tails, I think, is based on Debian. It could have done Gen 2. Imagine compiling while you're fleeing the feds. So we talked about the lack of open source hardware, CPUs, motherboards, and GPUs. We looked at OS applications, kernel, assemblers, firmware, all the way down to the hardware. And in reality, the real problem is we're going to get as good as it gets. ETE doesn't provide privacy if the software is closed source, stuff like that. Mass surveillance is real. Debian is goated. How about instead of Debian, we do ENDEB? ENDEB? And the big issue is not just insecure proprietary software, hardware, is we have now messaging apps that are proprietary, or they don't maybe handle good privacy and security from the get-go, and it should be the default matter. We're going to look at a popular, well-recommended thing called the Matrix. Matrix. This is from a blog of a person who has some concerns of it, and they've been watching the project for a long time. Oh, wow. I will be doing maybe it was a rhetorical question. All Debian is goated. Oh, I mean, you're allowed to have well, first off, no question mark. So I didn't know if it was a statement or a rhetorical question. And you're allowed to have your own wrong opinion, brother. I will be doing a what about the Chinese Ubuntu? Is that a thing? Or you talk about North Koreans' Red Star? Is that real? I should get a hold of this. Imagine closed sourcing Ubuntu. The official Chinese version. Described as loose continuation of the Chinese Kylin OS. I should run this in a VM. I'll run this in a VM. I'll look at this later. So Matrix is one of the most top options for messaging because it's essentially decentralized in its nature. It's a protocol, not really a platform, not really an application. And with that, the Paradise is okay, Tails OS is based, Kali's okay, Kadochi is dog water. You're not helping your case, man. The reason is because Ubuntu, because Debian does a lot of the work, so they don't have to worry about doing Linux from scratch. Linux from scratch is a fucking nightmare. I get why. Debian's been around for a long time. It's rolling release. I mean, it's not rolling release. It's long-term software, so they can take their time on fixing stuff. I think rolling release is better, but that's besides the point. And you can achieve all those things that they do yourself. You just get a vanilla Debian install and then just bring all the packages and fucking customize it you want. All of this is obtainable on any Linux distribution. To be completely honest, you can get everything because it's open source down to mimic anything else, maybe besides nice, not Bob Works based. Minus maybe Tails OS because, technically you can find a way to run anything from RAM. You can get any Linux distro to do that. Yeah, but I have trouble getting people to use Matrix. We're going to go over why it's probably not a good idea. Maybe they have some insight. Matrix is a good platform because of its decentralized nature, but if its security posture is reduced, then maybe Matrix isn't the place that people should be going. They should be going to places like SimpleX or maybe Session, if Session does incorporate perfect forward secrecy like they said they're going to do in the new protocol. If privacy and security does matter, I tell people to obviously treat every public chat room like as if it's not encrypted and that all your secret funny jokes will be leaked at some point. And generally, my strategy to get people to join decentralized platforms mainly comes down to one of three things. What is a need they have? What is does this platform, this messaging app, fit that need? And what are they going to be enticed to do that? So what I do is, if people want to reach me, they have to reach me via Signal, like people in real life that I know. If they don't reach me via Signal, I'm not going to answer them. If they don't reach me via an actual end-to-end encrypted messaging app, I'm not going to answer. So they just kind of they're like, well, I'm fucking tired of doing this, so I'm going to message you. I'm going to download Signal and use it. That's just how it really is. So I've been watching the project for a long time, and it seems more promising alternative to many protocols like IRC and XMPP and Signal. The review may sound a bit negative because it focuses on those concerns that I'm an operator of an IRC network and people keep asking me to bridge with the Matrix. I have myself considered just giving up on IRC and converting to Matrix. This space is a living document to explore my research problem space, and the TLR is no, I'm not setting up the bridge just yet. I'm still on IRC. But it seems that more companies choose Mattermost instead of Matrix. Update 2026. This article is now a little under 4 years old and is bound to have grown some inaccuracies compared to the current state of Matrix. A quick review of the main point here made here doesn't seem to indicate any radical change that warrants anything else in this notice. That said, multiple updates are also appended at the end of the article, mostly reinforcing suspicious or noticed issues that have been. Yeah, company-wise, companies are going to pick something that is polished. Matrix is getting just polished. They're polishing a lot of stuff out. I've used Mattermost before in an environment with other people that collaborate. It was not really that good. Matrix kind of just works with the standard Element app. And their Matrix Element app is relatively new. So this seems like it has been updated to a certain degree. Introduction. Matrix is, I also found that Matrix still slow operate. Also, I got one guy to test Matrix, but he was too stupid to figure out how to verify encryption key. I think Matrix ain't for the average. It definitely is for the average. I mean, you just gotta, sometimes you have to explain something very different to somebody. Not everybody understands things like the first time around. I don't think I've ever had anyone have an issue with Matrix, and there's a lot of retarded people in my Discord server, respectively. And that's okay. I'm retarded myself. Matrix is an open standard interoperable with decentralized real-time communication over IP. It can be used to power instant messaging, VoIP, WebRTC signaling, Internet of Things communications, or anywhere you need standard HTTP API for publishing and subscribing to data whilst tracking the conversation history. It's also, when compared with XMPP, an eventually consistent global JSON database with an HTTP API and PubSub semantics, while XMPP can be thought of as a messaging passing protocol. According to their FAQ, the project started in 2014, has about 20,000 servers and millions of users. Matrix works over HTTPS, but over a special port 84448. Use Discord? Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, it's also a bridge to the Matrix and XMPP based. Yeah, I mean, most of the time I realize that people want to migrate to free and open source. This is like going to be a quick tangent because a lot of people ask like, why do I use Discord? Why am I on YouTube, etc., etc. Is because I'm trying to reach a mass adoption of people that normally will not be integrated with these free and open source options from the get-go. That's the point. Because if I'm on platforms where people already are aware of this, I'm just yelling into a circle jerk. Honeypot's also gonna add IRC, 2P, I2P, IRC. Well, I'm just gonna set up an IRC channel. That's how you'll connect to it via I2P if you want, but I'll bridge it once I get that going. Soon, trademark. But once I've noticed, if I'm going to places where people already are aware of this, like free and open source options, again, I'm running into a circle jerk moment where I'm not reaching the people that are questioning, proprietary software or don't know where to or where not to start. So that kind of makes sense to be on Discord because more people know about it, it looks less sketchy, and it also allows me to bridge stuff from Discord to Matrix to XYZ. Most public chat rooms should never be considered private and or encrypted anyways. You shouldn't trust them at all because, again, they're public servers. Other people can come in and go as they will. They can screenshot your conversations. Leaks are going to happen, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But at the core fundamental, perspective, at the core of the argument is that if I can bridge more people over to a free and open source options out there, they might leave Discord because Matrix or Signal or XYZ might meet their criteria of needs and wants. I generally think people have three criterias. Does it fit these needs? Is it easy? Is it usable to a certain degree? I have to be careful with that word because there are things that require maybe extra work, but once they start working, they're working. And what am I losing what am I losing? Is it convenient, etc.? Like, where's the convenience that I'm gaining? Where's the convenience I'm losing? And those criteria are going to be different for everyone else. They're going to differ from people to people. So not everyone is going to jump on Matrix. Not everyone's going to jump on Discord. Someone in our chat left Discord and he's in the Matrix, and we can still communicate across all the platforms. This is why I like the bridge, because I'm bridging that gap of people that now want free and open source options out there. I might bridge like a couple more rooms together, but in reality that becomes more time consuming and takes me away from like other things to do. This is why eventually I don't like having people become moderators and doing work because that becomes free work. I don't like free work in general, because I think people, if they're doing something, they should get compensated somewhere. So I try to maintain as much stuff as much as possible without infringing on people's time. I don't have a positive contribution. I don't have positive contribution to ITP Network yet, but I've only been running for like 20 minutes. You will. Your contribution is the fact that you're running. Mine will reset every maybe 8 to 10 to 15 days, but it builds my tunnels pretty fast. I've never had an issue. However, my positive contribution meter isn't also at 100 plus. It needs to be at over 9,000. Matrix is open to standard, blah, blah, blah. Okay, security and privacy. I have some concerns about the security promise of Matrix. It's advised as a secure with E2E, end-to-end encryption, but how does it actually work? Data retention defaults. One of my main concerns with Matrix is data retention, which is the key part of the security model and security in a threat model of where, example, as a hostile state actor who wants to surveil your communications can seize your device. On IRC, servers don't actually keep messages all that long. They pass them along to other servers and clients as fast as they can, only keeping them in memory and move on to the next message. There are no concerns about data retention on messages. Wow, I didn't know that, by the way. And their metadata, other than the network layer, I'm ignoring the issues with user registration, which is a separate, if valid, concern. Obviously, a hostile server can log anything passing through it, but IRC as federations are normally tightly controlled, so if you trust your IC operators, you should be fairly safe. Obviously, clients can often do, even if OTR is configured. What's OTR? Isn't it? Oh, off-the-record messaging. Okay. And even if off-the-record is messaging, log all messages, but this is generally not the default. Iris, for example, does not log by default. IRC bouncers are more likely to keep log to disk, and of course, to be able to do what they do, I want to get ITP mail set up, email over ITP. It is kind of goofy and annoying to set up as a person who used it for quite some time. Also, you got to be careful which I2P mail provider you pick. Some of them reuse email addresses, which is not good, by the way. Compared to this, Matrix, when you send a message to the Matrix home server, the server first stores it in an internal SQL database, and then it will transmit that message to all the clients connected to that server room, and all the other servers have the clients connected to that room. Those remote servers, in turn, will keep a copy of that message and all its metadata in their own database, by default forever. On encrypted rooms, those messages are encrypted, but not their metadata. I'm trying to, Postman HQ. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the one. They that Postman HQ, they keep, I believe they recycle email addresses, so careful which one you pick. I believe that was a concern of I2P mails. It could be different by now, but that was one of the people brought up, that they recycle emails. There is a mechanism to expire entries in Synapsys, but it's not enabled by default. So one should generally assume that the message sent on Matrix server, it never expires. Update. One key thing with Matrix is that it's not linear storage of discussion like IRC or email. It's actually directed acrylic graph that servers try to continuously merge. And as such, it's actually really hard to delete past history, even with expiration enabled. That's advisory for other servers in some room parameters, like join, part, and bans must be kept forever. This is a lengthy discussion for detail. Wow. GDPR and the Federation. But even if the setting was enabled by default, how do you control it? This is a fundamental problem with the Federation. If any user is allowed to join a room, which is the default, those user servers will log all the content and metadata from the room. That includes private one-on-one conversations, since those are essentially rooms as well. In the context of GDPR, this is really tricky. Who is the responsible party, known as the data controller here? It's basically any Yahoo who fires up a home server and joins a room. In a federated network, one has to wonder whether GDPR enforced is even possible at all, But in Matrix in particular, if you want to enforce your right to be forgotten in a given room, you would have to enumerate all the users that have ever joined the room while you were there, discover all their home servers, or start a GDPR procedure against all those servers. I recognize this is a hard problem to solve while still keeping an open ecosystem, but I believe that Matrix should have much stricter defaults towards data retention than right now. Message expiry should be enforced by default. For example, note that all the redaction policies could possibly use to implement a part of the GDPR automatically. See the privacy policy discussion below on that. The actual reason why most people choose Signal over Matrix is because they want something that looks like SMS. Matrix looks like Discord, and that UI is complicated for most I know. They say Discord and Element is too cluttered. I actually like the Element. I like Element. I think it's the nicest looking Discord client. I used Fluffy Chat for a long time, but Element is the most cleanest one looking. You can use Emacs as a Matrix client. Matrix doesn't objectively look like Discord to me. It looks like a protocol. And I think people choose Signal over Matrix is because Signal, again, that's its intention, is to be a replacement of SMS, which is unencrypted and insecure. And there are some issues with Signal, but I think overall it's better than SMS by miles. I think people harp on Signal too often in the weirdest of ways. Also, keep in mind that in the brave new peer-to-peer world that Matrix is heading towards, the boundary between server and client is likely fuzzier, which would make applying GDPR even more difficult. This comment links to this post in German, which apparently studied the question and concluded that Matrix is not GDPR client. In fact, maybe Synapses should be designed so that it's not configurable flag to turn off data retention, a bit like how most systems loggers in Unix, e.g. syslog, come with a log retention system that typically rotates logs after a few weeks or months. Historically, this was designed to keep hard drives from filling up, but it also added the benefit of limiting the amount of personal information kept on the disk. In modern day, arguably, syslog doesn't rotate logs on its own, but say Debian GNU Linux as an installed system does not have log retention policies well defined for installed packages, and those can be discussed, and no expiry is definitely a bug. By the way, the military in my country uses Signal for encrypted messages. If it's good enough for the military, it's good enough for us. Kind of. I know some countries also use Threema, but just use XMPP over I2P if you want peer-to-peer. My tunnel build success rate is 20%. See? Updates do work. I think Signal is definitely good. Again, I think people harp on them too much. I mean, my general consensus comes to two things when it comes to using protocols. You are trusting the node operators and the relay operators. So if you're that concerned, run your own. It's not that hard. There are ways to set it up yourself. You can set it up on a VPS, but then you're transferring the trust to that hosting provider, so make sure you trust the hosting provider, or better yet, put it on your own server and then route everything over Tor. The second option is when you connect to these services, use a VPN or Tor or I2P, just like with Nostr. There's a lot of stuff that relay operators can see. I run my own relay with Nostr, and when I connect to Nostr, I connect over a VPN, over Tor, over something, I2P when I can, if it does exist. I don't know if there's any Nostr instances over I2P, but that's not the point. The point is, I obfuscate my IP address and I obfuscate conversations I have. I don't sit there and leak personal information that I don't want to be public on these services. That is something that you need to take into account yourself. If you have Graphene OS, take the profile that has, take it, put it in a different profile, do an always-on enforced VPN, and you'll be fine. And then make sure, again, lie on the internet. lying on the internet is your best friend. If you take anything from that. Shout out to the Tor exit node runners that get fucked by law enforcement and their ISPs. Yeah, for real. The true heroes. I would love to run an exit relay, but I already know what comes with that fucking nightmare. So no thank you. So I just tell people to run a guard relay or a middle relay if they can. So, back. In fact, maybe Synapses should be designed so that there's no configurable flag, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Matrix org privacy policy. And this is something that I always look at when I look at software. I look at the privacy policy. Privacy policies can change. I think simple to understand and very uncomplicated privacy policies are the best. Ones that legally protect the company so they don't have like warrants filling up their time, and one that legally protects and is super simple to understand for its users. We don't log your stuff. This is what we log. This is what it can be used for. This is what it can't be used for. Simple. When I first looked at Matrix 5 years ago, Element.io was called Riot IM, and it had a rather dubious privacy policy. We currently use cookies to support the use of Google Analytics on our website and service. Google Analytics collects information about how you use the website. This helps us provide with good experience when you browse our website and our services. When I asked Matrix people why they were using Google Analytics, they explained to me it was for development purposes and they were aiming for velocity at the time, not privacy. Paraphrasing here. This also includes a free to snitch clause. If we believe that we are under duty to disclose to share your personal data, we will do so in order to comply with any legal obligation in the instructions of requested government authority regulators, including outside the UK. Those are really broad terms above and beyond what is typically expected legally, like the current retention policy, such users tracking and liberal corporation practices with the state set bad precedent for other home servers. Thankfully, since the above policy was published in 2017, the GDPR was implemented in 2018. It seems like both Element privacy policy and Matrix org privacy policy have been somewhat improved. Notable points of new privacy policies. The Federation section actually outlines federated home servers and Matrix clients which respect Matrix protocol are expected to honor these controls and retentions to ensure requests, but either federated home servers are outside the span of control Element, and we cannot guarantee how this will be processed. I like the new ITP Outpost update. It shows you the websites it pings and discovers. Maybe it should show you also your website. Is Billy's website back up? It's not. Disappointment. Later, Billy. Good luck with your router. So, let's see. Users under the age of 16 should not use the Matrix or service. Upload Cloud, Mythic Beast, Amazon Cloudflare possibly have access to your data. Since it's nice to at least mention that this in the privacy bill, maybe it provides, doesn't even bother admitting this kind of delegation. Mentions many more third parties: Twilio, Stripe, Quadano, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, Outplay, Pipedrive, HubSpot, PostHog, Serenity, and Matimo. Few used when you are paying for Matrix.org for hosting. I'm not super happy with all the trackers that they have on Element platform, but then again, you don't have to use that service. Your favorite home server assumes that you are not on Matrix.org, so probably has their own Element deployment, hopefully with all that garbage. Overall, this is a huge improvement over the previous privacy policy, so hats off to them. We will forget your copy of your data upon your request. We also forward your request to be forgotten onto federated home servers. However, these home servers are outside of our span of control, so we cannot guarantee. It's a great that they implemented those mechanisms, and after all, it's there's a hostile party in there. Nothing can prevent you from using screenshots to just exfiltrate your data away from the client. That's true. And aside, I also appreciate that Matrix.org has fairly decent code of conduct based on the to-do COC, which checks all the boxes for Geek Feminism Wiki. What a funny name. Overall privacy protections in the Matrix mostly concern messages contents, not metadata. In other words, who's talking with who, when and from where there is not well protected, compared to tools like Signal, which goes through great lengths to anonymize the data with features like private contact discovery, disappearing messages, sealed senders, and private groups. Matrix is definitely behind. Note, there is an issue open about messages lifetimes and elements since 2020, but it's not even at the MSC stage yet. This is a known issue, opened in 2019 in Synapse, but it's not just an implementation issue, it's a flaw in the protocol itself. Home servers keep join/leave of all rooms, which gives clear text information about who's talking to. Synapse logs may also contain privately unidentifiable information that the home server admins might not be aware of in the first place. Those log rotation policies are separate from the server level and retention policies, which may be confusing for a novice sysadmin. Combine this with federation, even if you trust your home server to do the right thing, the second you join a public room with third-party home servers, those kinds of get thrown out because those servers can do whatever they want with the information. Again, a problem that is hard to solve in the federation. To be fair, IRC doesn't have a great story here either. Any client knows not only who's talking to who in a room, but also typically the client IP address. Servers can and often do obfuscate this, but often the obfuscation is trivial to reverse. Some servers don't provide cloaks, sometimes automatically, but it's kind of like a slap-on solution that actually moves the problem elsewhere. Now the server has a little bit more about the user. Overall, I would worry much about the Matrix home server seizure than an IRC or a Signal server seizure. Signal does get subpoenas, and they can only give you a tiny bit of information about their users, their phone number and their registration and the last connection date. Matrix carries a lot more information on its database, and a lot of that information is carried permanently thanks to blockchain level permanence. Wow, that's not good. Did not know that. I still run IceCast server and sometimes share links to it on IRC, which obviously also ends up on more than one Matrix home servers because some people connect to IRC using Matrix. This in turn means that Matrix will connect to that URL and generate a link preview. I feel this outlines a security issue, especially because those sockets would be kept open seamlessly forever. I tried to warn Matrix security team, but somehow I don't think the issue was taken very serious. Here's the disclosure. Contact Matrix security report January 18th. Response already reported as a bug. Response can't reproduce. Timed out added. Considered solved. I responded I believe that the security issue is underestimated. Asked for clearance to disclose. February 1, I respond asking for 2 weeks delay after the next release, including another patch presumably in 2 weeks' time. Matrix release. I noticed the release as for clearance again. Response referred to the public's disclosure. There are a couple problems here. The bug was publicly disclosed in 2020 and not considered a security issue until I notified them, and even then I had to insist. No clear disclosure policy timeline was produced or seemed to establish in the project. There is a security disclosure policy, but it doesn't include any predefined timeline, which is kind of interesting. Most, if not all, places have like, hey, please disclose this within a specific time before it becomes public, I believe is the ethical thing to do. IPv4 firewalled. No. Firewalled now. Fuck my ISP. The bug was publicly disclosed in December 2020 and not considered a security issue to blah, blah, blah. Okay, there we go. I wasn't informed of the disclosure. The actual solution is size limit. 10 megabytes already implemented. A time limit, 30 seconds, implemented in PR 11784, and a counter type allow list HTML, media, or JSON implementation PR 11936. Hey, my messaging app is not secure. It might be Bill. What's going on, man? Pure vanity. I did not make it there to their Hall of Fame. I'm not sure these solutions are adequate because they all seem to assume a single home server will pull that one URL for a little while, then stop. But in a federated network, many, possibly thousands of home servers may be connected to a single room at once. And if attacker drops a link in such room, all those servers would be connected to all that link all at once. This is an amplification attack. A small amount of traffic will generate a lot more traffic to a single target. It doesn't matter that there is a size limit. The amplification is what matters here. It should be noted that the clients that generate link previews have more amplification because they are more numerous servers, and of course the default Matrix client element does generate leak previews as well. That said, it is possible, not a problem specific to Matrix. Any federated service that generates link preview may suffer from this. I'm honestly not sure what the solution is here. Maybe moderation, maybe link previews are just evil. All I know is there was a weird bug in my IceCast server, and I tried ringing the bell about it, and it feels like it's swept under the rug. Somehow I feel this is bound to blow up again in the future, even with the current mitigations. That is an interesting thing, is when people bring up stuff, you might be what I would consider a foreshadower, and the maybe it's nothing meme when it's definitely something. Update. Thinking about this again recently made me realize the problem is not whether or not clients or servers generate link reviews. The missing is the core of the question. The real question is whether the sender or the receiver generates the link preview. In Signal, for example, the sender generates the link preview, which removes a whole class of attacks, including the above denial of service attack, but also de-anonymizes the attack, which I haven't mentioned above, but that's still an issue in Matrix, of course. In other words, right now, still, you can find out the IP address of any Matrix user or the home server, or both, depending on the configuration. just by sharing a link with them. Neat? No. Of course, a home server's IP address is normally discoverable, but there might be a space in the future where it isn't and shouldn't be hidden behind a proxy. For example, that still feels like a security issue, and it's still isn't something Matrix seems to care about. Mastodon has the same problem, and people are starting to notice. Moderation. These are some interesting points. In Matrix, like elsewhere, moderation is the hard problem. There is still a detailed moderation guide of much of this problem space is actively worked on in Matrix right now. A fundamental problem with moderation, a federated space, is that a user banned from a room can rejoin the room from another server. That's true. This is why spam is such a problem in email and why IRC networks have stopped federating ages ago. See the IRC history for a fascinating story. Maybe we will listen to the IRC history. Update, it's much worse than I imagined. Abuse is really easy on Matrix. With simple attacks like flooding, joining permanently crippled rooms, according to Why Not Matrix, this is a problem that's been known for years. A fundamental design flaw that's barely acknowledged, but usually swept under the rug by Matrix people. The moderation bot is designed to help with some of those things that it can kick, ban users, blah, 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 blah. It can also subscribe to a federated block list published by Matrix.org. The block known of users, or servers. Bans are pretty flexible and can operate the user room at a server level. Matrix people suggest making the bot admin of your channels because you can't take back admin from a user once given. There's also a new command line tool designed to do things like system notify users. All users delete session X devices, not seen for X days, purge from... Okay. The tool and the Majorinaire are based in the admin API built into Synapsys. Rate limiting. Synapsys has pretty good built-in rate limiting, which blocks repeat logins, registrations, joinings, or message attempts. It may also end up throttling servers on the federated servers. The thing is, federated servers have a pro and a con. The pro is it's decentralized and it prevents people from really being banned from platforms. A lot of people get really butthurt and really upset being banned on X or Facebook or whatever, and they cry about it for endless amount of time. So some really smart people, some big brains, were like, hey, protocols are really hard to ban. This is why spamming email, like they were saying, is so easy to do, because email at the end of the day is decentralized, which sounds crazy, but it's a protocol that's very integrated into our lives, and it's very huge. So it's really hard to ban email. And this is why you have a spam filter, because you would be bombarded with emails all the time. And then another good way to prevent that is emails aliasing service, because you're not handing out your real email, you're handing out a fake like a dump email, and you can kind of just take that and put it in front of everything so that you can just block the spam automatically just by deleting that email, that aliased email. But because in its nature decentralized, it's very hard to ban people or get blocked, because you can just make another account or just find them somewhere else. I mean, the good thing about Nostr is there's way to block. I haven't had to block people because I can just not follow them or anything, and I don't really get into arguments on the fucking Nostr space, because most of the time it's just Bitcoin maxis and a bunch of news and retards. But I don't doom scroll on it either, because there's no need, because my feed is based on actually what I want to follow and see. Versus Twitter, it's designed, and Facebook is designed to it cause engagement, or a term that I would actually rather use called enragement. You get enraged at fucking people on the internet and start typing, and then it continues to feed you this bullshit. It's kind of like a negative machine. Like, it feeds off of negativity and fucking bullshit. And Elon Musk is acting like he's revolutionized the free speech platform, and we all know that's a bunch of bullshit. If you call someone a fucking retard or to or to piss their pants or something like that, you get rate limited or banned all the time. I mean, I've seen people get banned. It's not the town square that people make it out to be. It's also fucking just it does political. Again, I've seen tons of videos in this platform that are a couple years old, and it's just putting a narrative. It's putting a spin on it in a political sense. It's like old videos of like shit that happened like forever ago that people forgot, and then it's just bots engaging with each other or retards. And the funny thing is, it's always like old people that have like a blue check mark, and it's like there's no way you know anything about Twitter. I don't know how you're posting, Grandma. But that's what Twitter's for. It's there to engage and do engagement farming, so that people get mad and share stuff and fight in the comments instead of being productive. Me, I just talk shit to people about Debian, Monero, and CubesOS. Okay. Fundamentals and federation problems. Because users joining a room may come from another... But that my rant pretty much bleeds into the idea that it takes into account that pretty much one thing and one thing only. That federated services make it very difficult to ignore people. And if you generally on these federated services, you can just block accounts and you'll never see them. As far as my knowledge, again, I haven't really had to block anyone, but that's the best part. You can just ignore them. You don't got to interact with them. That's the beauty of and run your own relay. And I mean, some relays have block lists. I mean, Nostr is probably the most decentralized option we have. That's actually like cool. Like I mean, really like very censorship resistant, if that's your thing. But that's not their point. Their point is to make access to the internet for everyone. I do like you can even run a Nostr server on your Android phone and post stuff and share stuff with relays via Bluetooth. It's like very portable. It's very packed, packaged, small. I run a relay on my Android. I run another relay on my Android to connect via Bluetooth. So if there was like 30 people scattered across within Bluetooth range, I could share and relay messages to other users that are close by, all locally. Very based. Okay, so because users are joining a room that may come from another server, room moderators are at the mercy of the registration and moderation policies of those services. Matrix is like IRC's plus R mode. Only registered users can join by default, except that anyone can register their own home server, which makes this limited. Server admins can block IP addresses and home servers, but those tools are not easily available to the room admins. And there is an API, mroom server ACL, in the dev tools, but it's not reliable, thanks to Austin Hink for the clarification. Matrix has this concept of guest accounts, but it's not used very much, and virtually no client or home server supports it. This contrasts with the way IRC works. By default, anyone can join IRC network, even without authentication. Some channels require registration, but the general, you are free to join. Look around until you get blocked, of course. I have seen anecdotal evidence, CW Twitter that moderating bridges is hell, and I can imagine why. Moderation is already hard enough for one federation. When you're bridging a room with another network, you inherit all the problems from that network, but without the entire abuse controls tool from the original network's API. Room admins hijacking. Matrix in particular has the problem with room administrators, which have the power to redact messages, ban users, and promote other users, are bound to their Matrix ID, which is in turn bound to their home server. This implies a home server administration could 1. Impersonate a given user, and 2. Use that hijacked the room. So in practice, the home server is the trusted anchor for the rooms and not the users themselves. That said, if server B administrator hijacked user Joe on server B, they will hijack the room in that specific server. This will not necessarily affect users on the other servers, as servers can refuse parts of the updates or ban the compromised account. It does seem like the major flaw that a room credentials are bound to Matrix identifiers as opposed to the E2E encryption credentials. In an encrypted room, even with fully verified members, a compromised or hostile home server can still take over the room by impersonating the admin. The admin or even newly minted users can then send events or listen on the conversation. This is even more frustrating when you consider that Matrix events are actually signed and therefore have some authentication attached to them, acting like some sort of miracle tree as it contains links to the previous events. That signature, however, is made from the home server PKI keys, not the client's E2E keys, which makes E2E feel like it's been bolted on later, which is kind of interesting. Update. Note that the flaw actually has been called serious vulnerability by Ars Technica based on the paper from research confirmed that the flaw I hinted above, the response to measures, has been rather underwhelming with many issues still unaddressed. Another issue with the room admins is the way privileges are granted. Those are essentially integrated from 0 to 100 with roles associated with certain numbers. For example, normal user is level 0. Privilege user level 0, PL0, is moderator, and level 50 is an admin, and is an admin is PL100. The problem is that once you escalate a user to a certain privilege, you can't demote them. For example, if Alice promotes Bernard PL100, only Bernard can demote himself from the admin privilege. Offboarding then becomes really tricky because you essentially need politely to ask Bernard to please delegate their powers. In practice, when most people do delegate the PL100 admin privilege to bots like Manjir, the role accounts, but this feels really subpar, introduces a single point of failure in the access control system. Matrix argued this by design. In other words, you'd never be able to add any new people at 100 because they're able to take over your channel and bump you out. Yet this is how privilege works on IRC for decades and has actually worked fine. Essentially now you can never add a PL 100 user because you can never bump them out. So that rationale is somewhat bizarre. The alternative to removing those admins is to upgrade a channel with tombstone events, see below. Those are not supported by all clients and not exposed are not exposed in the user's interface by default and quite disruptive. If you run your home server where the admin is to be removed, you can of course remove that account, but that's also quite disruptive to that user and will not actually remove the user from access in it. So this is something to keep in mind. Availability. While Matrix has a strong advantage over Signal in that it's decentralized so anyone can run their own home server, I couldn't find an easy way to run a multi-primary setup or even a redundant setup, even with single primary backend, sort of going full on replicant Postgres SQL and Redis data, which is not typically for the faint of heart. How this works in IRC. On IRC, it's quite easy to set up a redundant nodes. All you need is a new machine with its own public address, with an open port, a shared secret or certificate between the machine, an existing one, and the network. Connect blank block to both servers. That's it. The node will join the network, and people can connect to it usual and share the same username space and the rest of the network. The server can take care of synchronizing state. You do not need to worry about replicating database servers. That is very base. We love high availability in this bitch. High availability is base and cool. Now, experienced IRC will know that there's a catch here. IRC doesn't have authentication built in and relies on services which are basically bots that authenticate users. I'm simplifying, don't nitpick. If that service goes down, the network still works, but then people can't authenticate and they can start doing nasty things like steal people's identities if they get knocked offline, but still basic functionality still works. You can talk in rooms with users that are reliable. User identities. Matrix is more complicated. Each home server has its own identity space, a specific user, and a cat matrix.org is bound to that specific home server. If that server just goes down, the user is completely disconnected, and they could register a new account elsewhere and reconnect, but they basically lose all their configuration. Contacts join the channels are all lost. Also, notice how the matrix IDs don't look like the typical user address, like an email in XMPP. They at least did their homework and got the allocation for the scheme. Rooms, users talk to each other in rooms, even in one-to-one communications. Rooms are also used for the other things like spaces. They're basically used for everything. Think everything is a file kind of tool. For rooms, home servers act more like IRC nodes, and in that they keep a local state of the chat room and synchronized with other servers. Users can keep talking inside the room. If the server that originally hosted that room goes down, rooms can have local specific aliases so that, say, room matrix.org is also visible as matrixexample.com. On the example, home servers both refer to the same room underlying room. So rooms don't belong to a server, it belongs to the federation, and anyone can join the room from any server if the room is public or if invited by otherwise. You can create a room on a server A, and when user from server B joins, the room will be replicated on server B as well. If server A fails, server B will keep relaying traffic to connect users and servers. A room is therefore not fundamentally addressed with the above alias. Instead, it has an internal internal matrix ID, which is basically a random string. It has a server name attached to it, but that was just made to avoid collisions. This can get a little confusing. For example, fractal gnome.org room is aliased on the gnome.org server, but the room ID is some shit.org. That's because the room was created on matrix.org, but the preference branding is GNOME now. Get out of my room. True. And no. As rooms by default live forever. Even after the last user quits, there's an admin API to delete rooms and tombstone events to redirect to another one, but neither have a GUI yet. And the last part of MSC 1501 room version upgrades, which allows a room admin to close a room with message and pointers room. Spaces, discover rooms can be tricky. There is a per server room directory, but Matrix or people find it depreciating in favor of spaces. Room directories were ripe for abuse. Anyone can create a room so that anyone can show up in there. It's possible to restrict who can add aliases, but anyways, directories were seen to limited. In contrast, spaces is basically a room that's an index of other rooms, including other spaces. So existing moderation administration mechanisms work in the rooms and can somewhat work in spaces as well. This enables room directories to work across federation regardless of which server they were originally created on. New users can add to the space or room automatically in Synapse. Existing users can be told about space with a server notice. This gives admins a way to pre-populate a list of rooms on servers. Home servers. And we still got some way to goes. So while you could work around a home server going down into the room level, there's no such thing at the home server level for user identities. So if you want those identities to be stable in the long term, you need to think about high availability. One limitation is the domain name, matrix.example.com, must never change in the future, and remaining home servers is not supported. Documentation used to say you could run a hot spare, but that has been removed. And last I heard, it was not possible to run a high availability setup. Doing a Gen 2 update right now, based. Where multiple separate locations could replace each other automatically, you could have high performance setups where the load gets distributed amongst workers, but those are based on shared databases, Redis, Postgres, backend. So my guess, it would be possible to create a warm spare server of a Matrix home server with a regular Postgres SQL replication but that's not documented in the Synapsys manual. This sort of setup would also not be ideal for networking issues or denial of service attacks, as you would not be able to spread the load over multiple network locations easily. Redis and Postgres heroes are welcome to provide their multi-primary solution in the comments. In the meantime, I'll just point out the solution that's handled somewhere more gracefully in IRC by having the possibility of delegating the authentication layer. Update: this was previously undocumented, but not only you can scale the front-end workers to multiple hosts, you can also share the back-end so that tables are distributed across multiple database hosts. This has been documented only on 2022-7/11, weeks after this article was written, so you will forgive me for that admission. Hopefully, obviously, this doesn't resolve the high availability scenario, since you still have a central server for that data, but it might help resolve performance problems for a very large instance. If you do not want to run a Matrix server yourself, it is possible to delegate the entire thing to another server. This is a Server Discover API, which uses the well-known pattern or SRV records. That's not recommended and is a bit confusing to delegate that service to another service. Be warned that the server still needs to be explicitly configured for your domain. You can just put mserver matrix blah 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 and start using as a Matrix ID. That's because Matrix doesn't support virtual hosting, and you still need to be connected to the rooms with people with your Matrix ORD identity, not example.com, as you would normally expect. This is also why you cannot rename your home server. The Server Directory API is what allows servers to find each other. Clients, on the other hand, use Client Server Discovery API. This is what allows a given client to find your home server whether you type Matrix ID on login. When you type your Matrix ID on the login. Okay. The high availability discussion brushed over the performance of Matrix itself, but now let's dig into that. Horizontal scalability. There were serious scalability issues in the main Matrix server in the past, so Matrix team has been working on hard-to-prove design. Since Synapse 1.22, the home server can horizontally scale to multiple workers, which can make it easier to scale large services. There are other promising home server implementations from a performance standpoint. Dendrite, Golang entered in the late 2020 Conduit, Rust, Beta, and others, but none of those are feature complete, so the trade-offs are to be made there. Synapse is also adding a lot of features fast, so it's an open question whether they'll ever catch up. I've heard that the Dendrite might actually surpass Synapse in a feature within a couple years. Oh, looks like it didn't. There are other, Matrix can feel slow sometimes. For example, joining the Matrix AQ room is this element takes a few minutes and then fails. That is because the home server has to sync the entire room state when you join the room. This was promising work. There was promising work on this announced in 2021 retrospective, and some of that workload landed in the 1.53 release already. Other improvements coming include sliding sync, lazy loader over federation, and fast room joins. So that's actually something that could be fixed in a fairly short term. But in general, communication on Matrix doesn't feel snappy as IRC, even Signal. It's hard to quantify without this instrumenting a full latency test. Bed, for example, the tools I used in the terminal emulator latency test, but even just typing in a web browser feels slower than typing in Xterm or Emacs for me. An Emacs user. Alright, cool. So we're going to end here, because this is a long-ass fucking article. Long-ass article. He did warn me. They did warn me. But we're going to keep looking at this because it's kind of interesting to see why Matrix gets recommended so much, and the kind of like the things that happen that are not good. Now, I'm going to be testing against some streaming software in the next day or two, and then doing it probably on Friday or Saturday. I haven't decided yet, but I will look at it. Would be based. Would be cool. But I'll definitely do that, and obviously these are shorter reads. It would be kind of cool to see a different option than me using just Restream.io, especially a free and open source option. And my stream will be a lot longer tomorrow. I'll probably go live at 10 o'clock or 9:45. And we're going to look at some more secure messaging apps, because I think it's a cool thought, especially with these protocols being as old as they are. Appreciate everyone stopping by and messaging in the chat so YouTube knows that I'm a real person and I enjoy all the policies. Remember to comment below your favorite vegetable, and if it's not tomatoes, you're wrong and you will spend the rest of the night in prison. Thank you, and I appreciate it. Don't forget to walk your snail.